Today I'm going to be comparing the Lord of Virulence to the Lord of Contagion and looking at which of them is a more viable option for a competitive Death Guard match. So if we look down, sorry that the data sheets are just pictures, I've been having problems with the EPUB version of the codex, but hopefully by my next video that will all be sorted. So the Lord of Virulence and the Lord of Contagion, the first thing to note is that they are both 120 points and they have the same basic stat line, so I mean they've got the same movement, both hit on 2s, toughness, wounds, etc. Now the difference between the Lord of Contagion and the Lord of Virulence comes is in their melee weapon. So the Lord of Contagion is of course more powerful in melee because they both have the profile of ×2 strength and -3 AP and subtracting 1 from their hit roll, but the difference is the Lord of Contagion will do 3 damage on the hit, whereas the Lord of Virulence only does 2 damage per hit. Now how useful this is in the game does vary, because of course there is a Death Guard stratagem which allows you to carry over damage, which is really nice because that means that the Lord of Contagion doing its flat 3 damage, that's not necessarily a negative thing if you've got loads of 1 wound models, because you can use that stratagem and carry over the damage, which is of course really nice. So on the melee front, the Lord of Contagion does win. And of course, if you know you're coming up against a massive horde army and don't want to spend all your CP on the stratagem, you can always give the Lord of Contagion the Man Reaper, and with that you have the option to attack at +1, -1, where you do double the amount of attacks. Although personally I wouldn't recommend that, and I think if you are running the Lord of Contagion, you're going to want to be running it with the Plague Reaper and using it as more of an anti-tank, whereas the Lord of Virulence can be more anti-infantry. If we look on their ranged weapons, now this is where the Lord of Virulence really comes into play, because the Lord of Virulence has the Twin Plague Spewer, so it's 12 inches, 2d6, 5 -1, 1, and of course because it's a flamer, it automatically hits and it's a plague weapon, which is really nice, whereas the Lord of Contagion gets 1 3d3 grenades. So compared to the Lord of Virulence, first of all, it's having less shots on average, because 3d3, that's going to be an average of 6 shots, whereas the Plague Spear is going to be an average of 7 shots, although the really annoying thing about Lord of Contagion is, again, it doesn't auto-hit, although it does hit on 2, so it's still pretty nice, but the Lord of Contagion can only use its ranged weapon once per battle, and although it does do 2 damage per hit, given that it's only strength 4, if you're either going to be using that against light infantry, and then you're just going to be wasting that second damage, and you're only going to be dealing 1 damage per one that goes through, or if you're using that on heavy infantry, then because it's only strength 4, it's very unlikely to wound. So I think the Lord of Virulence is certainly much more powerful in terms of its ranged weapon, and it also means that if something's charging the Lord of Virulence, of course you can pay the CP to fire Overwatch, and because it's a flamer automatically hits, then Overwatch is as powerful as a regular shooting attack, which is of course really nice, because if a large melee unit is charging the Lord of Virulence, it can hopefully kill 1 or 2 of those models maybe in Overwatch, which means it's going to be overall taking less damage. And overall, the Lord of Virulence, although it does less damage in melee, there's going to be very little situations when you're going to be needing that flat 3 damage. And when I play with the Lord of Virulence, I've discovered that most of the times you'll use it, you're going to end up killing the enemy that you charged, unless it's like a really massive squad. But I think in a game situation, the Lord of Virulence is certainly stronger, and in addition, just to add up, it does have a nice little aura, which buffs nearby ranged attacks by plague weapons for nearby infantry, and, nearby plague company core, so basically infantry, apart from poxwalkers, but they do ranged attacks anyway. So I think overall, if you are choosing between which of these to have in your list, because of course per detachment you can only have 1 Lord of the Death Guard, I would certainly go for the Lord of Virulence, unless you know you're playing against a really heavy tank based army, but that's very unlikely. So I certainly think the Lord of Virulence is the more powerful option, because although it does slightly less damage in melee, its range attacks really make up for that, as well as its nice little ability. So that's about it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. Sorry I've not been able to upload too much recently, I've been quite busy, but I am going to put up more regular videos, so I hope you enjoyed. But for now, bye.